Hello, I'm Rich from Medieval History Buff. I just wanted to thank people who have subscribed to my YouTube channel over the last couple of days. We're up to 57 now. I really appreciate it, and all the people that subscribed before. It it's gratifying to see my channel growing, even though it's small and steady at the moment, but it's still gratifying to see people are engaged with what I'm putting on YouTube. So I really do appreciate all the likes, all the comments that I've had. It's very supportive and it's very well appreciated. I'm in this for the long haul, so I think together we can really grow this channel into one of the biggest on YouTube, hopefully, in terms of history anyway. But that will obviously that will take a long time. But the reason for this video was for me just to talk quickly about medieval history being a subject for a wider audience. What I've noticed on social media is that a lot of people that write about medieval history come from a university educated background, and what is, without being too political or too snobby towards them, they they all seem to have the same kind of narrow minded view of the world, and I think that translates a little bit over into their writing on medieval history. I think the one advantage that I have when it comes to medieval history is the fact that I'm coming from a slightly different viewpoint. I'm not university educated, and my school education was disrupted by autism related problems. Not problems, but issues that arose. And but now that I'm writing about medieval history, I look at it perhaps I think in a slightly more open minded way than people that are probably slightly more articulate in what they put and probably slightly more thorough, but I think they don't always engage their audiences as well as they might. I don't think there is a big enough audience for medieval history that the subject deserves. I think people are put off by the subject because they see it as too stuffy and academic. But the way I see it is that actually history should be told as exactly what it is, a story. If you look at my content, I stick mainly to the events of the subject, of whatever subject it is, whether it's the Peasants' Revolt, for instance, or Magna Carta. I try and stick to the events leading up to what happened and then the actual event itself. I think what that does is I think that makes it more interesting because history doesn't need to be over embellished. And I look at a lot of the books that I have on the subject. I've probably got close to 200 now, and I have not completed a lot of them because I think mainstream historians overindulge in minor dull detail. And like for instance, a couple of historians that I've got in mind who are slightly guilty of that are Ian Mortimer and Alison Weir. Alison Weir is particularly popular, but I have to say I've never found her books very engaging. They're very well researched. She's a very talented historian, but she's rather monotonous sometimes with how she puts her writing, and it becomes quite dry. Medieval history shouldn't be about monotonous, dull detail. It should be about how engaging it is and how exciting it is. These were real people that we're talking about. You need to bring them to life. And as I say, the best way that I've found of doing that is literally to let their actions do the talking. I think one historian who I think is particularly good at that is Dan Jones. He's also very popular. And also Mark Morris. Their books are very thorough, but they flow easily, and it just makes it so much more engaging for the reader. Why I criticise somebody like Alison Weir and Ian Mortimer is there are literally some phases in their books where they literally just list place names and things like that. There is one book I have on by Ian Mortimer that I think is The Perfect King, where he literally just names a whole list of place names like Hereford, Hertfordshire, and it takes up an entire paragraph. And in the end, I put the book down for about a few months and forgot about it because it just wasn't bringing the story to life. So this is what I mean by there needing to be a wider ranging type of history being written. Instead of like just having history being written by university educated people, which again is not disparaging them in any way. These people worked incredibly hard to get where they are. But actually coming from somebody like myself, and hopefully other people over time as well, and there will be other people out there who are like me, not university educated, and just writing about the subject out of pure interest, who can just do a slightly different job of showing that medieval history isn't just something you do at A level and then go off to Oxford and Cambridge, which I think is the impression that some people have of it. And when I read my books, I have to say they're not too far wrong. I find it quite rare to find a book that I think, oh well, yeah, this is quite an easy book to read, and I get through it in like one or two sittings. So hopefully over time I'll be able to publish my own work on medieval history. I don't mean just my videos. I mean, like, hopefully I'll be able to publish printed work and book. By that I mean books. And what I'll aim to do is to write almost in a chronological order of the events of, let's say, King John, for instance, and keep the narrative fairly simple. Not simple to the point of, treating the audience as stupid, but simplify it, add in a bit of humour, and I think that attracts a more diverse range of reader. By diverse, I don't necessarily mean like ethnic background or anything like that. To me, that's inconsequential. I just want people, wherever they come from, to essentially enjoy my content. But I just like to see a more diverse range of thought process behind medieval history content, whether it's books, whether it's YouTube videos, whether it's magazine articles, whatever it is. I would just like to see people not treating it as a dry subject. It needs to come to life. And if you do that, then it becomes a subject for everybody. I mean, like, for instance, the Peasants' Revolt, it's violence, it's London going up in flames, it's brutal, people died. It's not a dry subject, it's something that you should really be able to see. In a way, you'd be able to see what happens in a book like Harry Potter, for instance. You can see what's been going on in the book, even though it's not real. You can kind of picture it in your head, because that's how brilliantly written Harry Potter is. But medieval history generally isn't written like that, and that's what I aim to be able to be good enough to do over the next few years, really. One final thing on this subject is that what is also stood out to me is that there are some history books that just go off the beaten track completely. I have two books in mind here. There's one on the Holy Roman Empire and one on an Anglo-Saxon king from the 9th century. There were three subjects out of those two books that had no place in them whatsoever. One was Donald Trump, second was Brexit, and the third was 20th century communism. That that is kind of what I mean. Historians write books, but they go off on a tangent. And I don't fully understand why you'd add subjects like that into a book that is clearly not anything to do with communism or Trump or whatever. What these historians are guilty of is that they have taken a subject and they've not got enough material on it, and so they digress. So when I look to write a book on medieval history, I will make sure that I write about something that I've got enough detail on, because I'm certainly not going to talk about Trump or anything like that. And I'll always strive when I produce my videos to stay politically neutral on modern politics. I won't even mention anything that hasn't got anything to do with what I'm actually supposed to be talking about. And that is sometimes a thing I get really frustrated with, because it's not just those two books that I mentioned that I've seen it in. I've seen it multiple times. I don't really want to hear modern historians' views on modern politics. Yeah, just tell me about what you're supposed to be telling me about. This is kind of a bit of a ramble, and I apologise if it's not particularly interesting, but it gives you an idea of how my thought processes work when it comes to producing my content, and why I really, really want to do something with medieval history. It gives you an idea of my motives, that I really want to encourage people to get into medieval history in the way that I've done, even if they're not university educated, even if they don't regard themselves as particularly academic. Medieval history is a fantastic subject, and it should be for everybody.